I went on 0. I went on 0.
Did I.
No,
Whatever.
you didn't.
Big time. Welcome to Movie Boners,
That's your fault. Oh, yeah. Welcome, everyone.
where we fight like an old married couple.
But not really.
No, not at all.
Damn.
Yeah. So this is the part of the show where we tell you about the beers we open.
And we
Just
thank
so you know.
Wandering Lion Studios for it.
Yeah, we will do that in a moment. What do you got going on over there?
What do I got going on? Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it first.
Oh, okay. This is our taste test time. Oh, weird.
Oh.
I don't know about that.
Yours?
I just had like a weird asparagus taste. And I haven't had asparagus, so I don't know what that was.
Why does your beer have an asparagus taste?
I don't know. I don't know, but it concerns me.
Well, mine doesn't. Mine's pretty fucking good.
Good for you. What's yours?
I am drinking Devil's Backbone. It's a Belgian-style triple.
Oh.
Tripel. From Real Ale Brewing.
Wow. Real Ale Brewing. Interesting.
From, it's brewed here in Texas. Yeah, okay. That's what I was looking for.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
I'm drinking a beer that's getting better the more I drink it. I don't know if I just had a weird thing going on in my mouth or what, but...
Or if the alcohol is kicking in really quick.
Could
Did
be.
you eat today, Jake?
I mean, not as much as I should probably. But I'm drinking a crushable cream ale from a new brewery, a Sparge Brewing Company in Wellington, Colorado.
Oh, all right.
I suppose it's crushable, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have like anything about like what a crushable cream ale has in it.
Dude,
maybe it.
You said asparagus. I'm very thrown by that. I don't.
Very specific.
Yeah. Well, you enjoy that one. I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I think this is the first time I've seen you have a negative response to a beer on the show.
Yeah, usually you're the one being a crybaby about it, and I'm
crybaby my ass. Sour beer is gross. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's so bad. I don't get the appeal.
That's funny. Thank you, Wandering Lion, for our beer segment. Go check out wanderinglinstudios.biz. They are awesome guys, awesome studio. Did you do so I'm getting ahead of myself. They do.
I know what you're going to say.
Monday and movie trivia Thursdays on their Instagram and Facebook. Probably I haven't been on their Facebook, but on Instagram.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's on both. It's on both.
Okay. That's wise. I assume so.
I have not answered yet because I am still trying to figure this one out. I think they may have stumped me with this one, although your answer, I think, is the closest to being correct.
I'll take it.
Like I think yours is the closest.
Okay.
But that second piece of that second hint that they gave about the static and people thinking that's part of the movie, I was like, I feel that is such a specific piece of the movie, and that's what's throwing me off. I might be thinking too hard on it. So if you guys are listening, fuck you. I don't like being stumped on movie trivia. It bothers me.
He's only gotten one wrong, and he wants to never do it again.
Right. So it's killing me. So I have not rushed any answers. I will say, I promise I'm not cheating. I really don't. My brain is full of useless movie knowledge, as you know.
I do.
So I'm really trying to just tap deep into that so that I can find the correct answer and not like Google it or cheat. But your answer made me laugh because one, you might be right. And two, it wasn't just you answering. You specifically called me out Just trying to answer before Dustin gets in here.
I very rarely get to it before you, and so I was like the first one to comment. They had just posted it like 30 minutes before or something, and I was like, Dustin's not here. I need to answer quickly. But yeah, then I was like, in before Dustin actually post the real answer, and I was like, hey.
I was like, I see how it is, Jake. And then I was going to throw a movie out, and I was like, no, you got to try. Like, no, you got to think of this one.
You can't play fast and loose.
Yeah, so I'm going to ponder a little bit more, probably post show, and hopefully have an answer posted tonight.
We'll go to the Wandering Lion Studios Instagram and Facebook. Give them a follow and take part in all of the
it's
activities.
a pretty fun group, pretty cool group.
Yeah, very fun times. Before we get into the episode, it's been like, what are you doing? Are you dying?
I went to burp, but then I coughed at the same time, so I got like that weird burpy cloud, and it just like, what the fuck? Sorry.
I was going to say, it's been a crazy, not just week, but even last day or two for movies and movie news. So I took some notes to like mention because I wanted to get your impression on them. I haven't talked to you about them at all. Just today, there's been all of this stuff being reported about how Todd Phillips has signed on to write Joker 2. Have you seen this?
Is this official?
I feel like I'm doing a late night TV show. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? I'm Jay Leno.
Be better.
I saw it everywhere. I saw it everywhere. It has to be real.
Is this actually real? Because I know as soon as Joker came out, everyone wanted a sequel, and Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, everyone associated it with it. We're like, no. Like we wanted to make just a single film. They had talked about spotlighting kind of these Black Label style stories, but with different Batman villains or different Batman characters. I did not see any Todd Phillips news. I'm on IMDb right now. Let's look at it, see what they say.
Maybe IMDb doesn't know yet. If you just Google Todd Phillips, there's like a billion articles that come up. So it's not like some fringe source that's just like doing a dream casting thing.
Right.
It's at least buzz that's going on. How do you feel about there even potentially being one?
I don't
need
it.
One, honestly.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I think a sequel takes away the impact of that story.
It's a very impactful story.
But I also, when I watch Joker, I don't necessarily take it as like, I know it was on your comic book list, and it should have been on mine. But at the same time, I don't really take it as a comic book film, mainly because of how Todd Phillips had approached it, where he wanted to make a movie about mental health, mental illness, when it's abandoned. And he just chose the Joker as kind of the perfect character to show people how bad it can get for a society.
It's only barely related to comics.
Barely related. And there's even a whole bunch of talk that it's not even actually like, I mean, Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix have both kind of joked and poked around like, it's not even the real Joker that you guys all know.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs a sequel. I think Joker is one of those movies that should remain single entry because, I mean, everyone I've talked to, which a lot of them have said Joker's one of those movies they cannot watch again. Because it's it's too intense, it's too heartbreaking, and I get it. I could totally see that movie being that kind of film. And everyone I've recommended it to, I'm like, you need to do yourself one thing, though. You need to have something very lighthearted and very funny lined up right after you watch Joker.
Yeah.
Because you do not leave that movie elated. No.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to. You're supposed to feel the weight of that story. I don't like the idea of a sequel for it. I never have. That being said, I would probably still go see it.
100%. I'm gonna watch it. Yeah,
I would go see it.
Yeah. Another big deal that happened. Amazon bought MGM Studios for $8.45 billion with a B dollars.
Yes. Okay, I knew you were going to bring this up because this obviously affects a very iconic character.
Yeah, the MGM is in charge of a lot of large franchises. James Bond is number one with the bullet, obviously, but also the Rocky and Creed movies, the Stargate movies, RoboCop, Silence of the Lambs, Fargo, all that stuff that's going on. So yeah, how do you feel? How do you feel about Amazon as a studio, and does it make you excited or concerned about the next phase of James Bond?
Slightly concerned.
Okay.
Mainly because Amazon is not about the theater experience.
True.
Now, I'm trying to think of like Amazon, like Prime films that I have been in love with. I'm having a hard time coming up with one.
I don't know of any Prime films off the top of my head. There have been a couple Prime like shows, series that have been good.
Yeah. But the movies themselves, and maybe I'm just having a blank moment. I'm concerned because Bond is one of those characters. He's one of those stories you want on the big screen. That's how they're marketed. It draws in huge crowds. It makes tons of money at the box office worldwide. Like the Bond films are massive.
Yeah, that was the thing I looked up because I was like, I was wondering how good of a deal this was for Amazon. I was like, obviously 8.45 billion, that sounds like a lot.
Because it is.
It's for a whole studio. Like I think everybody knew when Disney bought Marvel, that was 4 billion, and when they bought Star Wars, that was also 4 billion. But that's just one thing. When they bought, so MGM at 8.45, James Bond movies alone have grossed, if you adjust for inflation, obviously, 14.7 billion so far. Skyfall alone was 1.1 billion gross. So yeah, Amazon got a great deal on MGM.
Yes, they did. I was kind of shocked to see that MGM was still like functioning with other properties. Besides Bond. But I mean, I'm curious. Who knows what's going to actually happen with Bond post Daniel Craig? Who knows the direction we go from here?
Right.
I am concerned because I have yet to see a Prime movie that really like makes me excited. I really like the ones I've watched. I'm like, okay.
I was concerned already. That's probably part of the problem. Is if you talk about the Craig era is over, we're going to reboot it now. They have to pick a new Bond. They have to do all this stuff. It's you introduce certainly risk or unknowns that have to go into that. So I was already concerned about what's next. But Amazon taking it on instead, I don't know. There's just something weird about it for me.
Yeah, I feel my movie lover instinct is kind of like when I saw that headline today, very much just, oh no. That should not be your first response. But at the same time, hopefully Amazon does this franchise well. That, like, honestly, that's a franchise I will focus on.
Right.
Hopefully they do it right. Hopefully they give it justice. I don't know. I think I rather would have seen a different. And I think it, honestly, dude, it boils down to, as much as I love streaming things, I'm always going to prefer a theater over watching it in my home. Always.
Yeah. And hopefully they do that. Hopefully Netflix has started doing it. They release things to theater and then they release it on, obviously they have to put it on their platform earlier than normal because it has to draw people and that's why people pay for it. But it's like they're going to hopefully do that, I hope.
So we'll find out. We'll see. I mean, they haven't even started plans for the next Bond. Now, granted, No Time to Die has been delayed so many times that
I almost forgot that there's not yet. We have not yet seen the last version.
Right.
On the topic, not to be a downer, going into happy movie news. Last bit of movie news.
No, you're good.
Which I know that I've been waiting to bring up. The bigger franchise, better franchise than Bond is Highlander. And not only is Chad Stahelski, who's been trying to make it forever, director of John Wick. He said ages ago he was going to make it. Years I've been waiting for him to actually do it. And then they're like, hey, guys, not only is this not dead, but Henry Cavill, the best Superman ever, is now signed on to be in it. And so I am elated this week with that news.
It was very hard. I had a feeling you were going to want to talk about it and not just over text messaging. When I saw that, it was another piece where I just started laughing and immediately was like, Jake might be throwing a party right now. Like, Jake might be pouring like celebration shots this very moment.
It's pumps in the air. I was so excited.
And then I got like, you sent me the headline of it. You're like, having not seen Highlander, which we pointed out in the what list was that?
It was in my guilty pleasure list. It might have been my number one pick of my.
I think it was.
List.
Anyways, I saw that, and I was like, okay, two things are probably going to happen now, and they might happen quick. Well, as the movie actually releases. I'm definitely going to watch the original Highlander. I will watch it.
Nice.
I will probably not be a fan of it. That's part of number one. And I will probably be a massive fan of Henry Cavill's Highlander. I will probably end up being like, I'm in love with this. And then I will go back and fall in love with the original just out of respect. This is what happens to me sometimes. But
I think that's an accurate prediction.
I was excited when I saw that he got cast for it because now I do have one unpopular opinion. I'll share it.
Okay.
So one, obviously, folks, I'm a huge fan of this dude. Him as Superman, he is my Superman. He made me a fan of the character to the point where I have gone back and really I love Superman now. It's weird to say. But all the other projects that he's worked on, he's so much fun to watch, and he's got a pretty good range, and I really like his range. The Witcher, this is my unpopular opinion. I'm not a huge fan of the show.
Okay. And
I kind of feel that they have not given him the room to really shine. And maybe I just haven't seen enough of it, but all he does is grunt. But I mean, he's a badass, so he swings a sword like no one's business. But I feel they do him kind of.
They cater, I think, a lot to the fans of the game, and so the character, from a voice acting perspective, is kind of defined. I think that they could and should give him room to open it up a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
I would like to see that. But that brings me to Highlander and why I'm excited, because you already mentioned the director, the dude behind John Wick.
Yeah.
I really feel that director is going to let Henry Cavill open up some stuff. And I really, I thought to myself, this fucker, Henry Cavill, is going to be the face of so many franchises. This is going to be crazy. And then it brought me back to being like, Warner Brothers is so dumb. But that's another rant.
We could do that every day.
I am excited for it, though.
I said before, Highlander is perfect, ideal for a reboot because the first one, honestly, not great. I'm going to be self-aware and say not great. But there's a lot of good ideas, and you could make it a lot better with a good director, good writer, good cast. So yeah, I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, well, and Cavill's already come out and been like hinting that it's going to be on this grand scope. And I'm like, man, I'm all for it. Like, I'm excited for him. I'm a huge fan of him. I really am. Now we just need that Man from U.N.C.L.E. sequel. Come on.
Right. That would be a great other franchise to get.
If we ever get that announcement, I'll probably be Instagramming for that one.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, I am excited for it. I think it's going to be really interesting because I kind of feel for like the first time in a long time, Henry Cavill is going to get to use his actual accent.
True. Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I feel like this kind of story would warrant him to not have to do an American accent.
Yeah. The first one, he can do any accent he wants because Highlander is famously
all over the place.
Friggin' Sean Connery, who's a Scotsman, plays a Spaniard who has a Scottish accent. It's just weird. Christian Lambert does like a weird accent. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think he could do a British Scottish accent, no problem.
Yeah, but I am like good on him. It made me excited, and I've never even seen the old one. I just give him all the let's just keep rolling.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's
all I need now, I need him and Dwayne Johnson to be in a movie together.
Yeah,
and I'll be happy.
Right?
How cool would that be? Which, man, if Dwayne Johnson gets his way, they will duke it out. But
yeah, don't get me started on this. We need to do a real episode, but we can talk about the DCEU for a second.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Dwayne Johnson's freaking posting about Black Adam, and I'm like, what could have been? You could have fought Superman. You could have fought all this stuff. All right, let's move on before I get depressed. So, actually, this is actually kind of an interesting segue that's unintentional. We're talking about The Empty Man.
Yep.
And one of the weird things about The Empty Man is that there's a long-ass intro to it.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes or something like that.
It's like when the movie starts to when you see the title card, it's like 22 minutes. We're about 22 minutes into our episode, so it's appropriate we finally get started.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking at it. So, yes. We let you know, follow us on social media so we can tell you what homework happens. If we're doing a movie we're going to spoil, we're going to let you know in advance.
Yeah, we're trying to get better at that. I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. We did good this week. We'll try to do good again next week. And we'll let you know at the end of the episode what next week's is also. Those of you that don't have social media, that are too cool,
or too
good for
smart.
You. Yeah, a little bit above. But yeah, so if you missed that and you are listening to us talk about random shit and now we're getting into an episode, we are going to spoil the crap out of the movie The Empty Man.
Yeah.
Which you have probably not seen or heard about.
Possibly heard about.
Yeah, it came out in 2020. A, it's new, and B, it was kind of released under the radar.
It was kind of lost in the pandemic shuffle. So we've done a really good job, I feel, for the most part, not bringing the pandemic into all of our episodes or conversations. Unfortunately, that kind of has to end today. Just because of the handling of the release of this movie. I promise, no ranting. We'll be good. But the pandemic was a big factor into the film's failure, honestly.
Yeah. And it seemed like they had made it a while ago and they had been kind of figuring out what to do with it. I guess it had been on shelves for a while. And then it was one of the last films that Fox made before they were acquired by Disney. And so Disney now had this thing that wasn't released that they didn't know what to do with. And so they kind of dumped it into theaters in the middle of the pandemic when nobody was going to the theaters.
Yeah, and the marketing of it was wildly horrible. Like, I've seen some pretty bad marketing. I think this one almost takes the cake.
I was going through like research and I found like a Reddit post or a tweet or something that someone was like, or some organization tweeted out that The Empty Man's releasing next weekend into like 15,000 or 1,500 theaters, and there weren't any trailers yet online. Like, nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew why it was coming out. It's just random.
Well, and with theaters being so scarce, to even release a movie with no promotional material, and the promotional material you do make is horrible.
Right. I benefited from having no idea what it was before I watched it.
Okay.
So I would recommend that. If you haven't seen it yet and you're still listening to us, even though we told you we're going to spoil it, don't watch the trailer. Don't do anything. Just go watch it because I think it's better watched cold like that.
It really is. So I did not watch the trailer before watching it. I watched it because you were like, hey, wait, this was the first time in a while I got to watch brand new movies, and it was really exciting and new. Well, not new, and just kind of like, oh, not all of them were like good. But we'll get into that later.
Separate from this discussion.
Right. But The Empty Man, I know you were really excited for it, and I remember when you had told me about it, you were very like, it is not going to be kind of what you think. There's so much more to it. And I was like, all right. So I watched it with that kind of mentality. And I'll just say before we dive into it, I thoroughly, as a horror film fan, love.
Okay, yeah, you have the most like, I guess, clout here. I'm very interested to see what you think, because I'm like a guy who's like, hey, this is a pretty interesting movie, it has interesting ideas, it might be shit, I don't know, I like Highlander, so what do I know?
No, I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was so well done, and it hit so many of my favorite kind of horror film moments, particularly the patience. I love horror movies that are patient. Like, let it slow burn. Because horror doesn't necessarily need to be jump scare after jump scare. Right. The most effective of that genre are the slow burns that just kind of hang out with you after you've watched the movie. And The Empty Man gave me a lot of that. There were a couple moments I did not like that I felt, I think that was studio interference. We'll get to that. But I was so bummed because after I watched it the second time, I was like, I think I'm going to buy it. Like, I think I want to buy this movie. I think this is one that warrants a physical copy because it's so well paced. There's no physical copies of it. The studio won't make the physical copy because they don't feel it's financially viable because of how like big of a failure it was at the box office. Which I'm like,
yeah,
that's your own goddamn fault.
Yeah. It's like you made it fail, and now you're shitting on it for failing.
Right.
I don't know what you wanted to do.
I truly think this movie, had it not been released when it was, or had better promotional material to it, or any real promotion to it, I think this movie would end up being a pretty big hit. I think it would be one of those that people talk about. Maybe not so wide as like Hereditary, but Hereditary fans, I feel, should watch The Empty Man.
Yeah.
Not because they're the same movie or like they do things the same.
Yeah.
Except for they're patient and they don't rely on your super cliche jump scares. It's very much just you're confused and it makes you uncomfortable because you're trying to piece together what's happening at the same time that the main character is, and you're just not pulling it off.
Yeah. There's a good amount of depth. There's a good amount of interesting things where it could go a couple different directions, and I feel like people could kind of talk about this, argue about it, and say, oh, this is what happened. No, I think this is what happened, and both could be right. There's enough to support those arguments. I saw an interesting, as I was like kind of researching what people are saying about it, and I totally agree with what you're saying, that it's definitely a movie that people should find. I hope people find it. That was a big reason for doing this, that people need to hear about it and go and find it. I think that I found an interesting article from Vulture that I posted on the Instagram that said that it could be the next great cult horror film. Like people haven't heard about it, but as more and more people find it, it could end up taking off. And so I hope people find it.
Yeah, it deserves so much more credit than the studio gave it. As a horror fan.
And we have seen movies that have had haven't had a physical copy, but as they get more popular, then they end up releasing one, or some other studio picks it up and makes a run of Blu-rays or whatever. So it's still possible.
It is, and I honestly, if that happens, it's one that I would like to have, so that I could tell people like, you should watch this. Like, you need to set aside a few hours. It's not 3 hours. It's like 2.5. It's a long one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it moves pretty well, though. It doesn't feel terrible.
Right. It needed to be 2.5 hours. I really feel
it probably could have been longer, honestly.
There's some stuff to it, I think, and that'll be in my bit. What I got out of this movie, and the turning point of the movie, was when I thought, oh, this is probably at the turning point that Jake thought, oh, Dustin should see this. Or like, oh yeah. Or maybe that, or maybe even the point in the film where you yourself thought like, yeah, this is interesting. Something, because of how it teases for the most part. You gotta find it. I had to find it on Prime. It is on Prime to stream, but you have to rent it. It's worth the price. It honestly, it is. It's cool.
Yeah. It seems a little tricky to find. There are a handful of places you can rent it or buy it digitally, but no physical copies at this point. So do you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to do spoiler warning at the front and just get really into it? We can do that.
I think we should just play it safe. Yeah, we'll do spoiler. I know you already kind of said it. This movie, The Empty Man, is kind of one of those where you can't help but spoil because of where it takes you. So, heavy spoiler alert. We will be just wildly doing that.
So, if you're still listening, stop it. Go watch it if you like horror, if you like especially surreal horror or mysteries or somewhat crime to some
I
extent.
kind of feel like you could watch this movie and not be a horror fan and still get something out of it. It's a very thriller kind of feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's slow, it paces itself so well, and it's patient. So it's not the kind of movie you put on and you just wait for something scary to happen. You're going to be waiting a long time for that. So don't wait for that. It's more of just like a thriller, suspense, mystery kind of movie with a somewhat horror-y supernatural aspect. So yeah, stop now or continue at your own peril.
Yeah, let's just cross that bridge.
Oh, yeah, bridges are a big thing in this movie.
This movie essentially could have been named Bridge.
Yeah, that would have been a good name. That would be like, it would have several meanings. That's why it's interesting.
But I
was going to say when I first found this movie and I started watching it, I read like the description, the tiny little description that says something very basic about it. I was like, that sounds interesting. Started watching it. For the first 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, this is not what it said it was at all. Did I get the wrong movie? What's going on? Like, nothing they said was going to happen is happening. And like I said, yeah, there's a massive, like, what's that called? Preface, basically?
Yeah. It goes on for a while. I had the same thought when I was watching it. It's like, this was the movie, right? Like,
yeah.
This is not the United States. Why are we watching this group of friends hike? I'm very confused right now.
Yeah.
And then I thought, like, oh, well, one or two of them are going to survive, and I guess that's where it's going to pick up. It'll probably do a time jump. Mm-hmm. It does that, but not to what I thought.
Yeah. It was interesting enough. I was like, even if this isn't the movie I'm trying to watch, this is interesting. I like where this is going.
I love that opening. It is so well done. Because you are confused, you're definitely concerned. And there's a couple little things in it that I'm like, ooh, that's so, like, I like that. The whispering, like the chanting, the whisper chants.
Yeah.
That might be I think that might be my favorite part of the entire thing because it's so effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those group of friends, as soon as he tells them, like, if you touch me, you'll die. It's like...
Right. Whispers it so quietly.
Right. And I was like, oh, he's going to die because he has to touch... Like, he's dead. But where they got me, and we're talking about the preface. So this isn't even diving into the movie. This is pre-title card, and it's already a spoiler.
Right.
When he said that to the friend, and the friend touches his shoulder, and you see him kind of like close his eyes, like, damn it.
You shouldn't have.
Yeah. Bad move, bro.
Yeah.
I expected, and this is what the movie did really well with that the entity was going to be the one that was like, it was going to be like a grudge kind of thing, or, like the Japanese horror where, okay, the entity's coming after him now. And that wasn't what happened. That opening is so... That could have almost been a full-length film, trapping them in that cabin. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do that, though, because I really like most of the direction it goes in. I did have to laugh, and this is kind of a... Well, I'll save it. We'll get to it as we move further on. But there was a moment, not during this movie, but during one of the other movies I watched, where I had to laugh, and it was like, damn it, Jake. But we'll get to that.
We will get to that. There's something related between this week's and next week's.
Yes.
And it's a thing that you hate, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, so I really like, just staying in the opening, I really like the opening and how they start carrying him down the hill and they find that cabin. And so there's a whole, like, you don't know what's going on, but it says day 1. And I'm like, how long are we going to be in the mountains for? And so this is day one, and then they are like, they find the cabin, and he has a like little flute in his hand, and they're like, "Oh, why have you been carrying this around? That's interesting."
I was so confused by that for the longest fucking time.
And then I liked the like when the snowstorm happens and the girl goes outside and she sees a thing through the snowstorm. She thinks it's a person. She's like calling out to them, trying to get them to come help them get back down the mountain because their friend is paralyzed. He fell down the crevice. You should know because you saw the movie. You're watching it with us. But I like the tension there where she like takes a step and it takes a step. And then she takes another step and it takes another step and then it decides to run at her like first. Like I liked I don't know if I see that very often. Usually it's like she starts running first, but this is like it just starts booking it at her and I'm like, fuck. So I liked that. I thought it was cool.
Seeing and a little detail for me in that scene is the figure that she sees. You as a viewer know pretty much immediately, like, oh, stay away from that. Like, that's not your buddy.
Yeah. It looks
stay away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really like that instead of there being a clear image of it, or clear-ish, I really like that the snowstorm is very, like, it ruins the image. It's very hard to focus on it.
Obscuring.
Yeah. I really like that. And then hearing it booking after her is like, nice.
Yeah.
And then you get day 2. And again, for me, I was like, what? Like, I had thoughts, dude, where I was like, did it skip something? Like, what is going on with this movie? Like, did I miss something? Pause it and look where the counter is. You're like, no, it started at the beginning. What is happening?
Yeah, and I like like you mentioned, the whispering is so effective, and how this guy who's been like paralyzed, comatose the whole time is just like hovering over this girl's head, like whispering in her ear as she sleeps, and you don't know what he's saying, but it seems very scary.
Know it's bad. Like there's nothing good when any character is kind of trance-like in a horror film. Anything they do post-trance, bad. Bad.
Probably not them doing it. Yeah.
Not to spoil every horror movie there is, but when you see a character do that, nothing good comes from it.
Yeah. And then he disappears, and they have to like go find him. And this is like the first real, I guess, scary part, that they find him waiting at that bridge. And we'll talk about bridges a lot. Bridges are a motif of the movie. But when they like finally just like kill, like those people get killed, the way they get killed, I like how just like sudden it is. And that one girl that it whispered into just pulls out the knife and just stabs that guy, and he goes over the edge. I like the violence. The violence is like simple, not overdone, not crazy, but it's rare but effective.
It's very abrupt. It's very fast.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where you're like, what? Like they don't draw any of that out. In fact, actually, there's one more scene in the movie that's actually like hyper violent, but violence is not really at least violence in the sense that you would expect is not a factor in the movie, except for that opening scene and then the one scene later on. But I love that too. I loved how quick it happens. I loved how nothing's drawn out. Dude gets stabbed and thrown off the cliff. Girl gets her throat cut, thrown off the cliff, and then they're like, okay, I'm gone too. I actually liked it. I thought it gave a little weight of just how quickly things could turn, which is almost a foreshadow for how that movie ends up going. And then the dude just kind of like has no response. and blows into that bone flute again. That flute, dude, I was like, what is with this thing? And then I caught myself thinking, like, oh, is it like a relic that is going to wind up in like a high schooler's home somehow? Because I figured, like, it's a horror movie. These are how they do things. I was like, is it going to be kind of like The Exorcist, where the totem of like the demon is going to, you know, come back, and that's what it's traveling with?
Right.
Nope, that's not it at all. It just happens to be a bone flute.
No.
And then you get the title card, which is missing a letter.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's either because of the title, or could there be something to that? Because it seems so purposeful. But I'm leaning more towards they just did it because of the title.
Yeah, I think that it was just that the word empty was empty in the middle, kind of.
Which kind of makes sense for later on.
All right. But yeah, you've gone through the whole thing. You don't know any of the rules, quote unquote rules. You don't know what the 3 days have to do with. You don't know what the bone flute has to do with. And then you're dropped, what is it, like 13 years in the future? So we were in 1995.
Starts in the mid-90s, and then it jumps into the 2000s.
2018. So we're in 2018 in Missouri all of a sudden.
Real quick, though, before we move on to current, well, what was current when they filmed the movie, but no longer current when it released.
Right.
The skeleton in the cave.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you brought
I have to mention this. I fucking love that skeleton. I
know, it's
so evil and menacing looking. Like, just that skeleton alone, I'm kind of uncomfortable looking at it. Not completely, because like I have a screenshot of it saved because I love it so much, and like showing my kids, look at this thing.
Well, you like that it makes you feel a little uneasy
because it's so unexplainable. It has like human-ish features, but the way that it's all like intertwined and kind of in a lotus pose makes it look, it's very hard to...
Yeah, certain bones, certain proportions are bigger than they should be. Things that are like fused together that shouldn't be. It's kind of weird.
Awesome skeleton. One little thing, which is weird for me to say, because I usually lean on the side of don't show me too much. I kind of wish I would have seen a little more of that skeleton, but not to the point where I was like bummed out completely. But that skeleton is so cool, and I'm still questioning it.
Yeah. That's the part that like that section mostly reminds me of the movie The Ritual. That's what kind of made me feel like that uneasiness, that like altar of bones and sticks, and all of a sudden you're in this very weirdly like uncomfortable, potentially sacred, potentially evil. You don't know what's going on. Yeah, creepy and cool at the same time, for sure.
It really is. You can see the skeleton. I posted the screenshot actually on Instagram. So yeah, moving into the movie, you get your title card. We hop into the film. You have zero background on anything, any character you're about to meet, but you're dropped in like the third act of all of their lives. It's very interesting.
Seems completely unrelated to what we've just been watching for the last 22 minutes. Were you also confused at first about the relationship between the daughter and the main character? Okay. Yeah, so the main character is this guy. It's James Badgedale who plays him. You would recognize him from 13 Hours or The Departed. But yeah, he meets up with that girl, And yeah, they're having a very serious and intimate conversation. Not like intimate, like sexual, but just like intimate, like personal,
Yeah, you can tell like
about their lives.
there's a history between the two of them. I started getting the sense like, oh, he must be like her dad. They're split family.
Hmm.
You know, with the whole like, can I tell mom that I talked to you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah, I thought that was her like, yeah, dad, and he was divorced
yeah.
at first, and then you find out that it's her like neighbor.
Who's just a
And you're
family
like,
friend.
what?
And you're like, wait.
Yeah, yeah. That part was kind of weird, I thought. The the first time I watched it, I didn't know what the fuck she was talking about. The second time I watched it, I do think this movie rewards multiple viewings, and I
Yeah.
think that's another reason why people should
You
see it.
almost,
Because the
not only does it warrant multiple, I kind of feel like it requires several viewings.
yeah, that's probably true. That's probably very true. Because after seeing it the second time, that conversation I have is so like specific and poignant and like in she reveals, I guess, a lot of what the main plot
Right,
of the
she
movie
pretty
is.
much
in that,
tells
like,
you what is going to happen or what you're going to
yeah.
see and learn about, but you have
Mhm.
no clue. It just feels like,
Yeah, she has this whole deep and important monologue all about like the power of our thoughts and how they have the power to manifest reality, and much like the main character, you have no idea what
right,
she's
you just
talking
kind of
about.
look at her with the same expression he has of like, what? I'll keep listening, but
Yeah, I
what?
think he even tells her, he's like, I have
Yeah.
no idea what you're talking about.
Uh,
Yeah, but yeah, that conversation is actually very important, I think.
I feel like after I watched it the second time, I really feel like everything. This is one of those rare movies, with the exception of what I hinted at earlier. We'll wait. The part that
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, this was a complete studio moment. Besides that, The Empty Man feels like a movie where every little thing that's in it is so purposeful. Like it feels, and you
Right.
don't really get that until you see it 2 or 3 times. I feel everything in it just feels
Mhm.
like, oh no, this is so specific. Like there is a purpose for
Mhm.
everything we are looking at. There's a purpose why some of the characters die the way they
Mhm.
do. Like there is something to everything. I like that. I really like
Yeah,
that.
I've I've totally noticed that. Like I've watched it a couple times this week. I've seen it before, and the second time watching it, third time overall, I was noticing every like all those little shots and all these little things. I was like, you just showed me that. Oh, that's important. I just realized that's important. It's very, it's kind of a like he really swung for the
Yeah.
fences, I guess, when he made this movie. Like it's a very, very intentional and elaborate movie. It's so the guy that wrote and directed it, David Pryor. It's his actually his first feature film, which is kind of crazy. And it's based on a Boom Studios graphic novel by Cullen Bunn, which I don't know anything
Yeah, me
about that,
neither.
but
Which was weird to see in the credits
very,
because I was like, this movie doesn't feel like a graphic novel, comic booky kind of thing, but okay.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's just an extremely ambitious movie, I
Very.
think.
Which is kind of sad to say because of how it was handled on release, but um
Right. Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
yeah, the attention to detail in it really caught my
Mhm.
my attention. Especially for a horror film. Especially for a horror film that could have easily been a normal style with the jump scare. I really liked that
Right.
it was so patient right after that title card. It's such a slow
Mhm.
burn to the point where you almost forget that you're watching a horror and you're like, is
Right.
this just like a mystery? She goes missing and you're like, okay.
Mhm. It's kind of like a crime drama
Right,
all of a
right.
sudden.
And then you're reminded, no, there's supernatural shit going on too, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess just talking about the main character who's kind of so he used to be a cop, now he's I don't know what he does. He's always a guy that owns that
He's
like
got
security
his
store.
security store.
Yeah, so he used to be a cop, and he's like this neighbor girl goes missing, the girl he was talking to, and how like that her mom, his like ex-lover, calls him to like help her. Um, the way that all of it is kind of handled, where he comes in and she calls the cops, and everybody kind of reviews her room, and they're looking at. She left a note on the mirror. So that's the first like hint at the title, where she leaves a note on the mirror that says, "The empty man made me do it." And something you said a second ago actually reminded me. This could have been a very like basic paint, like kind of not paint by numbers, but you know what I mean. A very basic kind of horror movie. There are movies like it that I think it'll get compared to by people who haven't seen it. Like this could be just like the Slender Man movie. I don't know
I
if you
did.
saw that, but it was
so
meh.
bad.
Yeah, and so there are tiny things that could compare to that, but overall, it's not like that at
No,
all.
it's really not. When she goes
Is that
missing,
right?
so I didn't even look at the IMDb page during this. I think I told you
Yeah.
that, where I was like, all right, this first viewing, completely unadulterated. I have no clue what the movie's
Hmm.
actually about. I'm just going to watch it. So she goes missing. Yeah, he's flipping through her notebook. There's some weird things in it.
Hmm.
When he finds the flyer.
Yeah.
Okay, so he finds the flyer, and immediately I'm like,
Yeah.
"Damn it, Jake!" Because it was a glaring red flag for me of like, "Oh no, oh no,"
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
is gonna be
So longtime listeners of the podcast will know Dustin does not like culty
nope.
stuff. Cults are like just
I hate cults.
uncomfortable.
They make me
And
uncomfortable.
this happens to be pretty close to cult
It's
related things.
pretty prominent with the cult mentality.
Yeah, the flyer he finds for the Pontifex Institute, and when he goes to the Pontifex Institute, getting ahead of ourselves, it is. I mean, there's a lot of similarities to like Scientology and all kinds of other culty
Yeah,
stuff.
I was the flyer. I saw the flyer, the fucking triangle with like the little lines drawn from it. I was like, God damn it, Jake. It's like, if this goes cult stuff, you're a bastard. And
Yeah,
so you're a bastard.
I didn't warn
No,
you
you did
that.
not.
Yeah, I am. Yep.
But anyways, yeah. So all of the empty man made me do it. So like the cops are there, the detectives. They immediately.
Hmm.
Small detail that I really appreciate that this movie did. So he's an ex-cop. The main character
Hmm.
is an ex-cop, which
Hmm.
kind of tired of just saying the main character. So his character's name
His name's
is
James.
James.
His name's
James.
James. Yeah,
So James,
which is convenient because the actor is James
yeah,
also.
ex-cop, and usually in a movie when there's an ex-cop, other officers around him kind of like badmouth him, or they're very standoffish against that cop. I really like that the detective
Yeah.
immediately is like, I'm going to use you. Like, oh no, you know the drill. Let's go talk outside for a minute. And like, I like that. It's not a prominent part of the story, but it's a little detail that I was like,
Right.
that's kind of refreshing. I kind of like that.
Mhm.
Because there's no
Yeah, I
necessary
do too.
animosity there. It wouldn't have gone anywhere had they put it in. But when the detective comes
Mhm.
back, we should say the empty man made me do it being written in blood. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, because I will say I had a little concern at that because it could have been another Slender Man. very easily. It was like, okay. I kind of feared it's not going to be human blood, or at least her blood. Right. And then the detective comes in and he's like, do you have a pet, perchance? And she's like, no, why? And he just, no reason, and leaves. I'm like, oh, they killed a dog. Damn it, they killed a dog. Like, a dog died, or she killed a dog. A dog died. This sucks. Because, let's face it, as audience members, we can handle main character deaths, mom, dad deaths. We can even pretty much handle, like, child death in movies. There's just something about when an animal gets murdered in a film. We immediately are like, motherfuckers. Like,
Yep. That's the whole premise of John Wick 1. As soon as you kill a dog or an animal, you're the worst person, and you deserve
as low as you're gonna be. Rot in hell, and maybe worse. Right. But I really like how he kind of goes on his own investigation to help her out. You know, his neighbor, who you find out is an ex-lover, ish.
Ish.
But I really like how his investigation is not super, like, clueless. I like that he's able to find a few people that are like, they're vague, but he's got enough intelligence to piece some things together. I really like that. That way, I thought it helped, although the movie is a slow burn, I thought it helped move the movie along a little quicker. Instead of giving him constant roadblocks, they actually gave him kind of a path to follow. And I really like that. There are several little things in the movie I felt were refreshing. It was nice to see these little details. It was nice not to see the exact same thing over and over and over again until the one scene that was obviously a studio moment. But I'm wondering, Jake, if you can figure out what scene I'm talking about.
I haven't figured out it yet, but I hope that I do.
I feel like you will pretty soon, because we're getting kind of close-ish to it, I think.
Okay.
What did you think about the kids on the bridge?
So the you're talking about the flashback,
right? That's
where he's talking to that one girl in the car and she's describing. Yeah, that's exactly where we're at.
Before the bridge. Sorry. I just thought there was one scene the first time I watched it where I was like, what? That's dangerous. When he's at the school and he finds, like, her friend and he calls her over and she's like, can I have a cigarette? And he's all, get in the car. And she just does. I was like, like, you don't just get in cars.
She's like, can I have a cigarette? And he's like, do you know they're bad for you, right? And she's like, yeah. Like,
yeah, okay, I feel like if there was one glaring flaw, school personnel would have been all over. Because he's not parked far away. Hopefully. He's parked right in front of the school. Someone would be shaking their finger at you, sir. Anyways. Ooh, that just reminded me. The first time you watched it, when they're in the car talking and she's like looking out of the passenger window and they focus on the group of kids there and then it pans to her, she looks completely freaked out, and then they show you again and it's like a few less kids and then she leaves. That first time you watched it, did you feel you missed seeing something? Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of parts where the camera would hold either on the group of kids or on like just trees in the background of the parking lot. I was like, did something move? Did something like pop out and I missed it? Or there's just, I guess it lends to the uncomfortableness or eeriness of it.
The second time I watched it, I was like trying to eagle eye that. Yeah.
Examine it.
Yeah, there's nothing there, which I really liked that decision because it kind of keeps you with James of not knowing.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was a smart decision to not show the empty man standing in the crowd, I suppose. That's what he's looking at.
Yeah, show too much too soon also. So the bridge. I didn't have any problem with the bridge. I liked the bridge. I thought it was interesting how... I mean, you see the girl again, you see her talking to all these people, and you start getting the rules. I mean, it's important to get the rules.
Getting the rules.
Of what the
she
girl in the
gives
car
you
is
like, here's the myth, or here's the urban legend. You know, you blow into an empty bottle on a bridge, and the empty man comes to you.
Yeah, you have to think about him. And the first night you hear him, and the second night you see him, and the third night he finds you. And that kind of tells you, oh, that's what all of that other stuff at the beginning was. Day 1, day 2, day 3, all that stuff. Yeah, it's kind of a similar legend like Bloody Mary or Candyman, or there's all these kinds of things. It's lumped in with that, which I thought was interesting. That now you're like, oh, this is what the movie is. There's a monster, and you have to follow the rules, and if you don't, like, you can't break the rules, that kind of thing. But then it ends up having nothing to do with that, and that actually is not.
That's not what the movie is at all.
So
I mean, the legend is true. I really liked right after they all blow into the bottle. I thought it was great because I was definitely expecting them to be like, "Oh, nothing happened. This thing's bullshit," and then we were gonna get like. Kind of a, although I love the franchise, kind of a Final Destination, like, oh, it's going to pick them off one by one. And my brain immediately thought, oh, he'll find her right before she kills herself, or the empty man kills her, and try to, like, intervene. Because that's... watch any 2000s horror movie. And... how wrong I was. I'm okay with being that wrong.
Not even.
But I really liked that almost immediately after they all blow into the bottle. You don't see the empty man, but immediately you're like, "Oh, yeah, he's there." Like,
You hear him blow the bottle back, and then you start hearing like footsteps.
Right.
And run away, and I was like, "That's effective."
Okay, and again, my brain was like, "Well, that's fun." That like immediately you get affirmation. This entity is here, and again, my brain thought it knew what it was going to be coming. And I'm so glad it didn't go that route.
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember what happens between the bridge and the sauna.
Okay.
I was going to jump to the sauna. Anything else that happens?
Well, I don't have it playing right now because
the sauna is like the.
I didn't want to stream it again, mainly because I have the computer going at the moment, and this is what I was using. Anyways, okay.
Right.
The sauna. I hated the sauna.
Yeah.
This is the scene in the movie that hated it.
You hated it?
It's the scene in the movie I feel doesn't fit the narrative of the rest of the film at all. It felt... This was a scene that I was like, oh, the studio came in and flat out told these guys, you need nudity, like completely pointless nudity, because it's a horror film. They typically have some.
Right.
And you're going to have the entity kill her and the audience to finally see a killing happen. Oh, that's what happens before, dude.
Yeah. There's too much of a gap between people dying.
Yeah, because you actually only see a few people die. Body count is kind of high, but you don't see the group of friends kill themselves. Him finding their bodies under the bridge, that's what happens. Because he goes to the bridge after talking with her. Finding the bodies, and they're all hanging in a row. I love that shot. I love it. Because you're like, you just got shown a very standard horror film setup that you think, here, I know where it's going. And then they're all dead, hanging under the bridge. And you're like, oh. And the most you got through all this is like, I can only find one of her friends. No one knows where anyone is. Oh, there they are.
Because they're all fucking
But
dead.
that scene is such a very effective tool to me to convey the horror. You still don't know what's going on. You have no idea what actually led up to them doing that. And hanging is slow. Like, you look at, I mean, they're not hanging very far. Like, the rope is pretty short. It just, that shot and then them, like, pulling the wrapped bodies up, it's very, to me, was very effective of just, okay, maybe I don't know what's actually about to happen, and that's a good thing. And then the fucking sauna scene came up.
Yeah, there's a lot of little details when he first gets to the bridge. There's like normal outdoor noises like crickets and stuff, and then it just goes quiet all of a sudden, and you're like, he's a little uneasy.
Whether it's a thriller or a horror film, whenever you already have tension kind of building up, to have every sound stop and the screen go silent, it is such an effective editing thing. It's such a great decision because immediately you're like, because people don't handle complete silence well, if at all. You know, we're uncomfortable with it almost as soon as anything is silent for like 12 seconds, you know?
It's unnatural for sure.
To already have him like blowing the bottle sarcastically and immediately you're like, God damn it. You're like, well, you got 3 days. And then to have it like, the wind blows the leaves, it goes silent. I love that part because it's so like, oh yeah. Okay, but his journey might be a little bit different. You kind of get that feeling his journey won't be the same. I just didn't realize how like crazy his journey goes. So then we get to the sauna.
Yeah, but
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. I think that's a very interesting point that it does feel out of place to the narrative. That's a very true statement. It's not. It doesn't fit what you learn later on. Going back to it, it feels probably more out of place the second time you see it. That said, I don't hate it because I find it brutal and cool and interesting how she's like, it's stabbing her initially in the face with like a knife or scissors or something, and then it like cuts and you realize she's stabbing herself in the face, and I was like, that is cool and gross and awesome. So I liked that part, but that's true. From a storytelling perspective, it doesn't fit.
Throughout the whole movie, that was the one scene that I was like, I don't feel this was a weird horror film. Well, I'm trying to word it. This was a very unique film to watch that doesn't follow normal horror tropes, at least as much. The effectiveness of the empty man really comes out with the journey and the lack of knowledge throughout. Up until he learns everything. And that's why I hate that scene so much, because I'm like, had they just followed their same thing, I don't need to see her die. All they could have done was like, oh yeah, we found her body in a sauna. You know, someone stabbed her several times and left it at that. To me, that would have been very effective of just like, oh shit. Like, what the fuck is going on? A little detail in that scene that also kind of made me like, was how human handy the entity is. Like, it looked too human when you see its hand, because it is a guy's hand.
Right.
I kind of
right.
wish they would have like kept kind of that like distorted, kind of ghostly, supernatural look, like the robe does that he wears, or like that cloak that it's wearing. I think that would have been really cool.
Right. For sure.
That sauna scene, now, although I hate that sauna scene, it does not ruin the movie for me. It's just one scene that I'm like, ugh. This was such an obvious, like, the studio looked at them and was like, hey, you need to put something in there. And then you find out, have you watched the trailer since watching it? Okay.
I did watch it after,
How obvious, like, because her scene is part of the promotion. So you're like, that's why people want to.
Like, hey, there's a sexy spot, and there's
a
girl
gets naked in a horror movie. I wonder if she will live.
Right. Chances
like no,
no.
There's not even there's no shot. If you saw the movie Cabin in the Woods, you understand that horror rule.
Right.
Yep.
Every time has to happen.
But moving past that sauna scene, to me, the movie picks up right where it should have picked up, which is, like I said, where the detective tells him, oh, she died. Like, and you were the last one to see her alive, it turns out. You're like, oh, fuck.
Right. Right.
But I'm trying to, like, remember all the little things that happen, because there's so much.
I feel like it is where it kind of picks up, because I think it's right after he talks to those detectives about her death that he goes home and starts Googling about the flyer. And he has the flyer and he Googles Pontifex Institute. And there's some really like interesting things all of a sudden that you're getting a ton of information.
And it's a very huge kind of revelation that everything you've been watching is not what you think you've been watching. I think that's one of the brilliant things about the movie is how open it is, that you don't understand your first viewing, but how open it is about you, like everything you've watched, you have no clue what this is all actually about or what is actually happening right now.
Right.
You're not supposed to.
You kind of have to be okay with that.
The sermon that he goes and listens to, which, by the way, Stephen Root playing like the granddaddy of this institute, given his spiel. I hate cult stuff. I hate cult mentality. I think it's such a poisonous thing. He delivers that speech so well, and to me it was such a like, this is why. How do people not catch on? This is why cult mentality is bad.
Yeah. It's really interestingly written as like a monologue. Like, I was listening to it pretty intently, and the things he says, they all sound good, but they also don't really mean anything.
Right. But they sound good enough that people would buy into it. And I get that it's a movie, but that's a very real thing.
They sound like a revelation.
It's a very real tactic that cults use. See? Fucking cults, man. I'm going to like... I knew. I was like, okay. Don't rant on cults and how evil and horrible they are. You're going to get me... I'm going to be good. But his monologue or his whole speech is effective. It is like, okay. And that first time I watched it, I was like, I feel like he just told me the rest of the story, but I'm not sure if he told me anything.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem with those cult like leaders as well, is you're like, enough of it sounds like it could make sense if I had more pieces. So I want to pay you money to give me more of the pieces so that I can be as like it's like there seems like there is interesting truth in there, but yeah,
it's
it's very
so
weird.
dangerous.
The other weird thing about it, before he even gets in to talk to Stephen Root, he's like the lady at the front desk like gives him that
Yes.
flyer to fill out, like a welcome thing. And I was like pausing it to read all the
Yep.
different questions they like asked.
Yep.
There are like some weird. I think that overall, it seems to be that the questionnaire is trying to gauge how open-minded you are. Like, if you're open to things that are not ordinary or accepted or sociologically, society like has
Yeah.
a constructed, approved
I took
kind of
it.
thing. But there are some
I took
definitely
that list
weird like,
as everything you just
things in
said,
there.
and it also. I'm telling you, the whole thing when he goes into that institute, I was like on edge. Not because I was afraid, just on edge because this
Yeah.
happens to me whenever a cult is in a film or a TV show. I don't do well with this shit. I just don't.
Yeah.
To me, I was,
It doesn't generally go well.
and
You're
I was
usually
like,
right.
I did what you did, pause it and read some of them because I was like, okay, there's answers in here. Like they're gonna hint.
Yeah.
You get the impression that the other people are filling out the same form. But on second viewing, I feel like after you learn everything, I feel like his form is very tailored to him. You see the other people sitting around with like a clipboard, but
Yeah.
his list is the one that's focused on, and you start to kind of like, I can't remember all the things that are listed, but there's a few things that kind of hint to his character, and you're like, ooh. It doesn't give anything away, but it felt very tailored, and obviously after you learn everything, everything is tailored.
Yeah. That very well could be because as soon as he talks to Stephen Root, and when he leaves the conversation, Stephen Root's like tells him something about like
he's like, it's good to
time.
see you back, and
This
he's
is the
like,
first time
this is the first time I've ever come, and he goes, oh, well, there's something about you. On edge. On fucking edge. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally see that. Speaking about pausing and reading things, though, we kind of skipped over when he first starts Googling the Institute and just before he decides to go to it, he goes to like Wikipedia and he sees all these pages of like what the Pontifex. Well, he searches for Pontifex Institute and he doesn't find anything. And it's like, did you mean Pontifex Society? He's like, sure, I guess, yeah, whatever. And but yeah, he starts reading all about the Pontifex Society, and I was pausing that, and I was like, okay, what does this Wikipedia article say about this institute that's like has this history? And that's where it first ties into the beginning, where one of the things that's related is when they were in. There's a thing about Bhutan, and that's where those people were hiking and all this stuff. But yeah, there's interesting things about this institute who has had situations where they've done rituals or there may be potentially occult situations. There's a cabin that we'll get to eventually. And then he Googles a thing on the back of the thing, which is just she wrote in pencil Tulpa. And so he Googles Tulpa and it's all about manifesting things with your thoughts. Like if you concentrate enough for long enough, then you can turn something into a reality, a physical form, which is the basis of the movie, I guess.
So I didn't pause the Wikipedia page to read it. I did admire that they used a real Wikipedia page, which means they had to create this whole thing. You don't see, usually in film or in TV, they are not like necessarily allowed the rights to use Google or to use Wikipedia. I thought that was kind of cool that these guys actually got to make the full Wikipedia page because they wanted to avoid that trope of like some fictional search engine. So good on you.
Yeah, so it was like Factopedia or something.
But the whole explanation of like the power of your thoughts, the power of being able to manifest something into a physical thing, just with the power of your thoughts and your focus and your attention to it. It really made me think of, do you remember when The Secret came out, that book, and that whole like mentality?
No.
So The Secret was kind of like that, but it was all positive. So it was like very much the more positive energy and thought you put into something, you could potentially manifest it to come real. I haven't read that. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick clarification. So with Secret, yes, live fact checking. Don't at me. All right. So it's the law of attraction, which claims that thoughts can change a person's life directly. So energy as assurance of its effectiveness. So using your energy and your positive thinking.
Like if you're positive,
still dumbing it down. Don't care.
Negative, you'll attract negativity. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And it can like, Anyways, so the empty man, when they're explaining that stuff, reminded me of all that. And it was very much like, right. How have we gone this long without the dark version of that kind of mentality or that thought or belief? Like, because if you're conjuring up an evil entity, well, actually, it's weird to call the empty man an evil entity.
Right.
Because it doesn't necessarily do anything evil.
Right.
Right?
I mean, you could say it manipulates the people that I don't know if it inhabits them or just draws their focus, let's say.
Right. So but it's like trying to just
getting people killed. People do die because of that.
So, right. But the reason I say the entity is not the evil one is because it's more of a tool to try and continue the bridge.
Yeah.
Try and get to the bridge. It's trying to find the bridge, you know? So the evil one is a goddamn cult. Fuck that.
And it could be that they were...
All that was just so I could complain about
it.
Maybe
they were the evil thing or bad thing, and they died because they were manifested the negativity, whereas if somebody that was pure of heart maybe wouldn't experience. I don't know.
I was just going with another way to like segue into how much I fucking hate cults.
I think that idea is interesting. I think the idea that you can create something with your mind's energy or power is interesting. I think there's enough there that people know to be true, like placebos. Like if you take medicine that's a placebo and you end up getting better, all that happened was you believed you took medicine and you got better. Like your belief can do things to the physical world. So I think that there's there, for sure.
Yeah, we can get back to what we're talking. While you were out, I still had a red dot, so there might be a little bit after you vanish of me telling people groupthink is bad.
That's good.
Don't do it.
That's good. People need to know. But yeah, after he talks to Stephen Root and has that big, interesting conversation, then he kind of explores the Institute. And I thought all that stuff was just as uneasy, just as weird.
The creepiest part of the fucking movie.
People like in semicircles, like talking to each other, like they're all blowing into bottles together. They're just like talking, potentially chanting. It's weird. And he just kind of watches them from the catwalk. There's a weird thing that happens. I took note of it, and I don't know what it means. But if at that point where he's like at the catwalk and he's watching these people down below in a semicircle, the like there's like a girl with a notepad and she like snaps us like a stopwatch, like at the point where he looks at her, and then they have like the conversation, And that comes back later, but I don't know what that part means. And I think it's
the stopwatch. I feel it's important. I got nothing.
Yeah.
It was a detail because they focus on it. It's not like it's a wide shot and you see her do it. They focus on the stopwatch and you see her click it. I have no clue what it means. I don't know if maybe they're timing from the point of, like, how long does it take for the empty man to appear?
It could be because they're like,
from post.
They started blowing into bottles, so maybe that's like, okay, if we start now and we blow into the bottles now, what happens? That could be.
Like trying to time what the length of time is of, well, the appearance. You know, like, okay, we did the ritual. How long before the ritual begin, or like the post-ritual consequence, if you will. Of course, then it gets real weird not too long after that. I mean, post-bridge scene, right at the Institute and forward, that movie for a mental thriller goes bonkers. Not like super visually, but what?
Yeah, we're about getting to the part where I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because from here, he sees that kid and he talks to him, and that kid talks to him about the cabin he saw on Wikipedia. So he goes to the cabin and ends up initially he finds like folders of like the people that he knows, all the kids and stuff. And then he finds his folder, and it's a red folder, different from all the yellow folders. And it's empty, and he's like, oh, this is weird. This is funny. You're being funny. Everybody's being... He's like, his commentary is really interesting and kind of funny. But then he goes to the other cabin at the camp, and there's VHS tapes of something. And when he puts the VHS tape in... First of all, I want to see if you noticed this part. When he walks into the room, he looks down and sees a teddy bear on the ground.
Okay, so let me... Yes, I did notice. First off, let me just say... when he gets thrown out of the Institute, and then the kid is there, and he tells him, like, haven't seen her for a while, dude. Yeah. And he seems so, like, nonchalant and, like... Immediately, it was like, don't trust him. That kid's fucked up. Don't do it. Don't do it.
He's playing.
Like, don't trust anyone that has any connection to this fucking shit show.
Because it's a cult.
I hate cults. I don't do well with cults.
Oh, man.
That being said, they're a very effective tool for, like, thrillers and crime
scary.
And horror. Yeah. They are. I can handle all this other shit. You throw in a cult, and I'm like, all right, I'm uncomfortable. Anyways, when he drives to the compound is what it really is, because that's what they all are.
Yeah.
Immediately, I was like, God damn it. Like... And then I thought, is this the end of the movie? Like, is this where the climax is going to happen? Right. And they do a good job of kind of tricking you into thinking that you're about to see the climax of the film. Right. But yeah, so he finds a red folder. I definitely was like, why is yours different? Yeah. Like,
stands
yours
out.
Is bright red. Everyone else's is like very standard, boring. Yeah. Why is yours red, and why is it empty? Right. And I thought maybe they're like trying to condition him, and I was like, you know what? I'm done trying to guess where this film's going to go. Yeah. Because I've been wrong every turn.
I thought somebody maybe like stole it. I was like, why do you even have a folder if it's going to be empty? So I was like, maybe somebody stole it and he has to like find the contents of it somewhere. I didn't know what it was.
That was truly the moment I quit trying to guess. I was just like, no, I'm done. Yeah. I've been wrong too many times. I keep like catching the wire over here. So then the second cabin, and what you were wondering if I noticed. the teddy bear. He walks in, you see the bear on the ground. It's kind of ratty looking. Right. And he finds the VHS tapes. And the editing is real interesting because they show him walk in, you see the bear, you see him kind of looking at the tapes. He plays one of the tapes, which doesn't give you any answers on your first viewing.
Right. You're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching.
Like, there's people chanting. It's super distorted. It looks like they're using the single light on the handheld to light everything, and it's horrible. Mm-hmm. There's a weird dude who looks like he's seizuring. And then I thought,
the tape is called.
Are we going back to it? Yeah. And then they do that wide shot, and I did notice this little detail. The bear's fucking gone.
Before that, even, there's a tinier detail.
Oh.
So,
shit.
As he's watching it, it like cuts back to the teddy bear. It's still there. And then you see the bear's head go up a little bit, very small. And the bear moves like on its own. And the bear goes like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the bear goes like this.
What?
And I was like, what the fuck?
What?
And then it goes back to him, and he turns to look at the wall, like he sees that like intense scene of the bald guy who's doing the painting on the wall, and it's like staring at him in the eyes. And then he turns around, and the bear's gone. Yeah, that's like one of the things.
It moves its head?
Definitely like cuts to the bear that you had seen. It's sitting still, and then right before it cuts away, it moves on its own a little bit.
What the shit? I'm trying to find that specific scene, and of course I'm probably not going to find it, because I feel like I need to see
almost to it. I could probably tell you where it is. I'm playing the movie in the background.
Oh, you're watching it right now?
I'm like very close to it. He just found the red folder. It's like around, okay, hold on, 1:30 maybe, an hour and 30 minutes.
Okay, this is funny. It's a screenshot for like the trailer. Well, that face
That's how I feel.
was the face I was making from the moment he goes to the Institute until the end of the film. That is the most accurate reaction to this movie.
That's amazing. I'll have to put that on the Instagram. I'm going to make a note. Hold on. Find the Fandango trailer video.
Oh my god. That's such a bad spot to have, but that's the most I had that face.
I could probably put the clip on Instagram so people know what we're talking about. Maybe I'll do that. I'm sure
you should
cut it.
You should just send me the clip. Just send me the clip. I gotta see it. I didn't know it moved its head.
Yeah, I noticed it, I think the second time I watched it, maybe.
All I noticed was that it, like, vanishes. What the fuck? The teddy bear moves on its own?
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
Oh my god. Just when I start thinking that I'm, like, figuring it out. Why is the teddy bear moving on its own?
It's subtle, but I'm pretty confident.
Unless she moves
Maybe it's on a string. I don't know. Because it disappears, and then later it ends up on his porch. We'll get to that. The other thing about the camp, though, before he leaves the room, the other thing about the video that he's watching. So I only noticed this because I paused the Wikipedia articles earlier. It talks about the cabin, and it talks about how there were 6 young men between these ages who were found dead, and it seemed to be that they murdered each other, and then the last one apparently committed suicide. So there are 6 young men, right? When he pops in the video, there are 5 young men around the table. Then there's the 6th one is the one that they manifest, the bald guy who does the painting on the wall. And he apparently, either they killed themselves or he killed them. I don't know what happens, but they all end up dead. Whoever they manifested is dead, and they are dead. So that's extra creepy and weird and scary.
Yeah, I didn't pause that Wikipedia page, but that's a good detail. Dude, this guy needs to make more horror films. Yeah. His attention to detail is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Of course, I need to know the bear. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be focusing on that now.
Send Dustin clip of bear. I'm taking a note.
Okay, so the first time I watched it, okay. So with my work schedule, so I have to segue to real life, and then trust me, I'm bringing it back. Okay. So with my work schedule, I work nights. So if I wake up early in the morning, I'm usually pretty groggy, you know, pre-coffee or pre-caffeine. Right. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. So it was a little over, well, no, it was a week ago when we were like, okay, so here's all the movies that we want to get watched. Yeah. And I was like, all right. I woke up that morning and was like, let's just watch The Empty Man. Let's see if we can find it. I found it. I watched it. I was doing so well. And I closed my eyes and drifted just a little bit.
Yeah.
Right when he walks in the cabin, I remember seeing the bear and then coming back to when he sees the fire.
Yeah.
And it was I feel like I missed something. It was
honestly, I was conscious the entire time I first watched it, and that was the same point. I had to back it up. I was like, whoa. Did I miss something? Shit's kicking off right now. What the fuck?
So I did rewind it, but I was not focusing on the bear, at all. I didn't even notice the bear the first time I watched it. I was just so focused on what he was doing, which I think is the point. Right. So I feel like I watched it how you were supposed to, but at the same time, I was engaged with the movie. I was just, my body was and pause you. Oh, we're back. And you've seen the movie. Yeah. If you've seen the movie, you know from him watching the tape to him seeing the group with the fire, that's 45 seconds.
He literally walks out of the cabin, sees people walking in circles around a giant bonfire, and that there's no gap, really.
Very minimal amount of time, but I was so worried that I missed so much. And I mean, that video is something you do need to see. Yeah. At first, I thought it was just weird, and I did think oh, they're are they manifesting a human right now?
Yeah, they're doing some sort of ritual.
And then the second time I watched it, it was oh yeah, they are telling you. The second time I watched the movie, I was so hyper alert with all the dialogue. I was oh my god, they have fucking told you everything about this movie from the get-go. From the title card. Because they don't tell you shit in the opening. But
from the time that the girl starts their conversation with him, basically. She's here's what the fuck's up.
She spoils the whole movie. She spoils the movie right at the beginning of the movie, which I love it when movies do that and you have no clue.
Yeah, I totally get why you feel like you missed so much, because when they get to the when he gets to the bonfire and he sees all those people walking around, up to that point you feel like the camp's abandoned. He's been in several buildings, he's looked at folders, he looked at videos, nobody's popped out, there's been no scares.
And it looks abandoned. Everything looks deserted. It's dusty, it's grimy, it's got that left in the woods. Right. It has that look
for sure. It. And then he sees all these people just walking around or running around and changing directions, going around this bonfire. And it goes way up into the sky, and he decides to he zones out for a minute, kind of like you did. And then he turns around and leaves, and then he sound kind of stops, and he looks back over his shoulder, and the fire is suddenly gone, faster than a fire could be put out. And then it does kind of the same thing at the beginning, where they all kind of start leaving the fire as a unit, an organism kind of.
Yeah, so they are swarming as one.
Yeah.
It looks like a swarm of bees or a flock of birds moving as one. To me, okay, when he gets out of the cabin and he sees them with the fire, immediately in my head was God damn it. Fuck. And that was why I was thinking oh, this is the climax. Right. They've got a fucking bonfire. I've seen Wicker Man, both original and hilarious Nick Cage version. I know what's happening. Like, and then you see him swarming. He has that weird thing where everything distorts when he looks in the sky. That weirded me out really bad because it was like, are we about to go science fiction? Like, what the shit is this movie? And then you see him swarming. Them swarming.
So quietly.
Like, his character.
They're so quiet as they're just like slowly moving.
So quiet. And his character perfectly sums up how every normal-minded person would think or feel where he looks at it and goes, fuck this.
Yeah, he nopes right out of there.
Right, of course. Then he steps on a leaf and they hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, he turns around and they do the same thing. They do the thing that the creature at the beginning in the snow did, where he takes a step back and they take a step forward. And then he's like,
That's right.
yeah, fuck this, I'm getting out of here. And they all start chasing him, and it's very scary for a second. But he gets away.
I was so convinced that was going to be the climax, that they were going to like swarm his car, which they start to do, and like pull him out, and then he was going to be a human sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, goddamn colds, man.
Right.
They're so bad. They're so fucking
bad. But then I forget what happens. He like talks to the mom some. They kind of talk about their life or experience together.
Well, that's when you start. They start piecing some more of like the flashbacks and the dialogue, which you and I have not mentioned.
Yeah.
The very first line post title card.
Yeah, the Lex
is a whisper of "Where are you?" or "Where were you?"
Yeah, that kind of recurs throughout.
Yeah, "Where were you?" is whispered throughout the entire movie, which is really interesting because when you get like the story, you know, his wife and child die in a car accident, and you see him bend the mom over and do her. Yeah. Which was a moment I was like, I don't know why, but this just seems aggressive. I don't know.
After her husband died, after his
yeah,
he sends his wife and son home and stays behind to do the widow.
Yeah, like it's at the wake. But then you hear "Where were you?" again, and I started thinking of like, once everything's culminated and during the second viewing, I was really focusing on that line, and I was like, I don't think that line has anything to do with the wife and child, because they die immediately,
right?
If they exist,
right?
And I was like, I didn't do it. I do want to watch the movie again. And I really want to kind of focus on the subtitles. Because you know how sometimes with like subtitles, it'll tell you the character name, especially if it's like a voiceover. And I kind of want to see if it's the girl
daughter
who like has orchestrated. Yeah, the daughter. I want to see if it shows her name to kind of give away like, oh. And I feel like we're getting real close to segueing into.
That's actually interesting. That's kind of one of the reasons I like this movie, is that it could be that, or it could be exactly what it shows you it is, and that would be very interesting. But it could be a couple of other things, and that would also be very interesting. He goes to the hospital room. Is that what you're talking about?
The hospital is essentially the climax.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
It's where you finally learn everything. Most of your questions are kind of answered
enough that you feel like you get it the first time, and then they're really answered the
Right.
more you watch it. Yeah.
And then you're still left with like, but wait, how do you explain? Wait.
Yeah, there are so many really interesting, surreal kind of cinematography in this movie. Like you said, all there's so many
Yeah.
little shots, and he focuses on specific things. Like there's a thing where when his wife and kid are in the car and they're about to get in the car accident and die, the kid is like tapping a ring like on his tooth, and like then later on, the James, the main character, is like tapping his ring, his wedding ring, on his like tooth as he's driving, and then while he's like driving, he'll be in his car and it's raining, but as he looks out his windows, he's like driving through the hospital hallways, which is so weird and
Yeah.
interesting. So it's like, yeah, just kind of surrealism and uncomfortableness in general.
Yeah. And you never really. I feel like anyone that says they 100% caught everything in The Empty
Yeah,
Man, you are
it's
lying.
impossible. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like you caught enough where you get it for yourself, but this is one of those movies I feel I could watch it 10, 15 times and would still find a new detail that I had not noticed. And I'd probably have a moment like with the teddy bear of like, what the fuck? Like, because it adds or it makes you question more. I'm still questioning the whole first time of his interaction with the lady at his security store.
Right.
I'm still so confused on that.
It's true. It doesn't.
And it's such a simple scene, but the ending makes you like, wait.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's before his birthday, isn't it? Before the birthday at the restaurant.
Yeah, it's so his opening scene is him running, and you hear, "Where were
Yeah.
you?" He's running. He interacts with the daughter, and then he tells the girl at a security store, "You don't want that one because you have to shake it. I'll show you the one that you actually
Right.
want." And then it cuts, and like that's the most you see of him having any kind of normalcy.
Yeah.
Everything else is his investigation and finding the cult.
Interesting. I think that's interesting. I think that's important, and that ties into the hospital scene. I'm kind of jumping ahead because there's a different hospital scene beforehand, but he does, when he talks to the girl, he does find the girl. He finds, I think her name's Amanda, the girl that went missing. She says at that point that you were, she goes into a lot of shit, but she goes, it was specifically related to the birthday thing. She says that was like your birthday, that was your actual birthday, that was when your consciousness started at that restaurant because we created you.
Yeah.
But if the security store happens before then maybe she's a fucking liar trying to fuck with them. That's possible too.
Right. Which would mean that she's using cult mentality to manipulate someone else's thoughts to make them question themselves, question their consciousness. It's evil, it's bad, it's horrible. The movie does a great job of showing all this. Problem with that, though, is when he calls the mom and she's like, I don't know who you are. And you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, I don't know who you are or why you would be calling me. Yeah, that part is weird. Before that, though, when he first gets to the hospital, when he first sees, he follows in that guy that you said you should be concerned about. They get there. There's,
which I was right.
Of course, the first time so far you've been right about what this movie's doing.
I called one thing.
He follows them into the hospital. Like they're getting people out of the trunk. Like a bunch of people are going in through this like service entrance. And then he follows them in. They go into this room with this guy in a coma, and they all like bow down, like get on their knees and bow to this like guy in a coma, which you end up learning is the guy at the beginning, the Kirk guy. So that's important. But the most interesting part is after that, when they leave and he like interrogates that kid, like pepper sprays him, kidnaps him, takes him to interrogate him. The kid talks about all this shit. Like he kind of releases a bunch of new information about, similar to the Amanda, the daughter. He's like, There's the empty man. There's a conduit. You're like there's an antenna that needs to receive information from him. He's like the like there's a creature who's like a transmitter, and then the empty man, the guy in the coma, is like the receiver, and we receive messages and all of this stuff, and it's very crazy.
Yeah, and that's where he starts also bringing up they finally start telling you the significance of bridges. We have to have someone to be the bridge to bring this entity to our world. We have to be able to get the messages from them. There has to be a bridge all the time.
Right. Yeah, and later on when he talks to that daughter, Amanda, in the room, she's like, seems like there seems to be a natural bridge that occurs where there was a bridge before, and then there was like a long gap, like a 500-year gap before this bridge, and they didn't want there to be another gap, so they decided to manifest another one, and that's what they claim James is, that they manifested him. She wrote his whole life, or they all contributed to who he is, what his life is. She made him like have an affair with her mom. That was like part of his story that they wanted. They made his family die.
So because it was supposed to kind of enhance like trauma, because trauma's it makes manipulation easier.
Right, which is interesting.
Someone's more prone to just accept things
or join cults.
Goddamn. Yep. It's so fucked up. Seriously, people don't do it.
Yeah, but a lot of what you take away from the movie, I think, depends on if you think that she is telling the truth or not. Like, if you take the movie as what it shows you and what she tells you, like I said, it's extremely interesting. There's a possibility, though, that she's not telling the truth, and I think I don't know if it's more interesting. It's interesting also, I guess, I would say. Because I tend to believe everything that the movie's telling me. I tend to think that this is exactly what happened, that what she's saying is true, because everything seems to line up as far as what I've seen. And then especially what happens, I guess, towards the end, when he actually encounters that thing, the creature, I want to call it the empty man, but I'm pretty sure that he's the empty man. He's an empty vessel that the creature can inhabit. And when he interacts with it, he tries to like shoot it. His gun doesn't work. And then it like kind of pours itself into him in a creepy way. And then
right, because he's the bridge. If I remember right, I'm gonna double check. But you continue while I do this. I want to double check before
I like the look of the creature. I like the look of the effects and how that whole interaction goes, where they're in the hallway and he tries to shoot it and his gun doesn't work, and then it comes towards him and kind of like knocks him down and pours itself into him. I like the veil. I like there's kind of like a tentacliness. There's a lot of weirdness and it feels weird, but I think it works well.
Yeah, the design of it at that point and at the very beginning during the preface, I really like those details. Again, the sauna scene where it's like a human hand, it doesn't work. But the design later on, you making it so unknown and so odd, but keeping it completely black where you never see a face, you never actually catch a detail. It's so effective. And then, it pours itself into him because he's the bridge. Right. And he's supposed to be like the one that can survive because they actually manifested him to be able to handle that. I'm with you. I think the movie is that she is actually telling him the truth. I think it still makes me question. So that means his interaction at the security store, that means there's no security store. There was no customer. Why was it so specific on the mace?
Yeah.
I don't get that. Why couldn't it have been like a gun? That means he was never married, never had a kid, never interacted with the mom. It's so like it's crazy to think if he's an actual manifestation and everything he has done up until the point of being told you're the bridge. One, it makes you question how much time has actually gone by and how many things have actually happened. And now I'm trying to figure out what the fucking teddy bear means. And
yeah, there was an interesting part. I don't remember if it was in the conversation with the like preacher guy or maybe it was in the Wikipedia article. There was something about after you manifest this being, like manifest a real person, there's a process where they gain their own consciousness and they do their own things and they decide to go their own way. And they compared it to like when a mother gives birth and you end up cutting the umbilical cord and then that thing has its own like path and consciousness and stuff. But you still created it. You still like manifested it. And so I thought that was interesting that he's trying to find his way. He does have his own like autonomy, quote unquote, where he can like make his own choices to some extent, but he's also fulfilling a destiny that they've set for him that he can't deviate from really also.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting.
The movie raises so many more questions than it actually like delivers. Yeah. But that's such a great, effective way to have a horror film where it leaves doubt. It helps with the uneasiness. It helps with when you finish the movie, the end credits start rolling and you're like, I'm uncomfortable because I don't know everything. I don't have everything I need. What the fuck happened? What was real? What was not? Yeah. So after he gets fulfills being the bridge, there can only be one bridge. And him walking in, so I guess there's 3 scenes of violence.
Yeah. Blowing the brain up.
Him walking in and just blasting the dude in the face is so oh my god.
His gun finally works after he's been infected with the whatever that thing is.
Entity, whatever it is.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is the pattern that the blood spray on the wall is it's like that Pontifex Institute symbol kind of, or that
right. It's like the symbol.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then he leaves the room, and the hospital staff bow to him. And you're like, God damn it! It totally brought me back to like I said at the very beginning of when we started talking about the movie. I can't say the episode because we went on for a while. Anyways, it's why it reminded me of Hereditary because of that, where it was like, oh shit. It's a reminder of how big this institute or this cult actually can potentially be, who's actually a part of it. And if that's the case, then if they're all manifesting stuff, that's kind of frightening.
Right.
Because now they're worshiping this entity that's officially there in physical, actual physical form, because he's been supernatural up until
Hold on, the movie just played a fucking scene that I think might have blown my fucking mind. Hold on.
What?
I'm backing it up. So at the very end, he's going through, he found all that other shit in his folder, and it's the newspaper clippings about the family death and stuff. And it shows the coupon from the restaurant. And then he flips over a printout of a toy website that has a soft brown teddy bear. That's $30, and then it says and then he pulls out a birthday card that says "Happy Birthday, Dad." So I think that may have been his son's teddy bear, or who he thought was his son, that they just implanted in his mind
What
or
the
some shit.
shit?
This movie is fucking crazy.
What the fuck? Okay, you need to send me this
Okay.
shit. Oh my god!
This movie's crazy.
This movie's nuts. Oh, it deserves such a huge audience. Honestly, it really does. Because
he flips over like what's that thing called that you get from like the doctor? A prescription, and it's for it's for doxepin. I don't know what that is, but that probably means something interesting. Google doxepin. DOXEPIN. They may not be a real medicine.
It's an antidepressant and nerve pain medication. It treats depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders in its oral form.
Treats insomnia and people have trouble sleeping. Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure that means something. I mean, maybe he's depressed because his family died.
So it's like, in super layman's terms, it's almost like a sleeping pill.
Yeah.
So would that almost mean keeping him or keeping his mind
somewhat sedated or something?
Yeah. Yep. Fucking movie, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I need a physical copy. I need to just like own it so I can watch it over and over again.
People need to go watch
Looking at the
and then figure out who owns it.
Seriously, it's such a crazy movie. And I'm so mad because usually after a movie's been out for a little while, like a month, the trivia stuff on IMDb blows up. Usually there's a bunch. There are only 11 entries.
Yeah, there's not a lot of crazy trivia, honestly. The most interesting one I saw was it talks about, I guess, bridges and how the guy at the beginning who ends up getting manifested or gets like possessed or whatever, he was the first one to like boldly cross the bridge because he was the most, like, I guess, susceptible or willing or open-minded or whatever. Foreshadow, I guess.
There it is. I knew it had something to do with his name. So James, the lead character, his last name, La Sombra.
Yeah.
In Spanish, it means the shadow. It's supposed to kind of foreshadow that he's not like
whole.
Real whole. Yeah. I knew there was something with his name. I fucking knew it. See?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh my god, this goddamn fucking movie.
Yeah,
man. It really is
so
good.
Like deep and ambitious, and yeah, I feel like there are a lot of scenes that you could just dissect frame by frame, even, honestly. Like I'm kind of was doing a second ago. I'm gonna take a bunch of like screen grabs and put it on the Instagram after this episode goes up. So go check out the Instagram to like see this stuff, and I'll for sure have the bear's head moving on there. So I'll send it to you first.
Yeah, I need to see the
episode
bear.
Go for a couple days, so I'll send it to you first, and then I'll put it up on the Instagram after that. So go to Movie Bonerz on Instagram and Facebook, obviously.
This movie, like, it's the kind of movie I hope it ends up becoming like a huge cult, kind of film.
I'm really glad
gaining that.
I'm really glad that you thought it was interesting, because you're kind of like, especially for horror movies, you're like my litmus test, because there are a lot of, you've seen all of them, you've seen all of them, you've seen good ones and bad ones, as you kind of have a good standard of, is this actually good?
I love the genre, and I love the genre when it really fucks with your head, where it doesn't rely on the jump scare, where it doesn't rely on like the gore or being overly violent. Although I still enjoy those movies, but horror is best when it's patient, when it builds the atmosphere. That's why movies like Hereditary or Rosemary's Baby, this, The Shining, all of those, they work so well because they really invest in patience and just making an atmosphere that you are uncomfortable being in. That's what makes good horror. I mean, like the best kind of horror. Sure. I would say The Empty Man is such a relief for that genre because of how he approached it. And I was reading a thing with the director where he does have a lot of nods to like iconic horror films in this. I mentioned the Exorcist, you know, the little totem of the demon. He definitely did want that kind of feel. He did want like little nods to little moments, and I think that's so awesome that like, oh yeah, this feels like that, and I got it. And subconsciously, when you make those connections to like the movies that affected you the most, the movie you're watching is going to have an effect on you because your brain's like, oh, we've seen this kind of thing before. This gets bad.
Kind of a defense mechanism. Your body's like, no, don't do this. Don't go down this path.
Right, your brain's like, no, you're not supposed to remember this. What are you doing? Stop it.
This is dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think I kept coming back to this both times I watched the movie. I remember in 2020, so last year, seeing that it was out when theaters were like, hey, we're opening, and I was like, I kind of want to go back to the theater. I legitimately toyed with just seeing a random film at the theater during the pandemic because I need that. I'm the kind of human, I have to have that experience.
Normalcy.
I just do. Yeah. And I remember seeing The Empty Man having a showtime. The theater was down the road from my house. And I remember being like, I guess I won't. Having seen the movie, I wish I would have gone and seen it on the big screen. I really do. I wish they would have, you know, held off on releasing it. I wish they would have postponed that movie like they did pretty much everything else last year.
Or at least tried to promote it at all.
Yeah, it deserves an audience, and it honestly the people I think that are going to be the biggest fans of this movie are the ones that really love like old horror, and people that really understand the scariest thing of horror is when it just kind of lingers with you. That's a great horror movie when like a few days after you've watched it, you find yourself looking in a dark room and you're like, I mean, Hereditary did that.
Absolutely.
Goddamn. Dark corners in a room? Fuck you.
Yeah. If you feel like something's looking at you, it probably is.
It probably is. It's probably so. I was so happy after I watched it, man, that I enjoyed it as much as I did. Because I know this was one that you had like really recommended to me. You've mentioned it a handful of times. It was fun watching.
I'm glad.
It.
I was I didn't know, like, because we've been doing the movie dissection episodes where we get pretty deep into it. And I was like, Dustin's never seen this.
Yeah.
He might like not have anything significant to say about it to carry an episode. But I'm glad you liked it.
I feel like we carried the episode pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not...
The fucking cult, man.
Yeah, and that actually, I guess, kind of...
And we're not done with it.
So next week, we have the similar experience, but I think is different enough. So, and you've already seen it, so you can kind of confirm or deny.
Different enough. It's still a goddamn cult.
Definitely very much cult related, but not so much horror, more kind of sci-fi. It's a different kind of movie for sure.
It's such... I have no... Like, I cannot even compare that to another film. It's truly its own thing.
Yeah. So next week we're watching The Endless. We've already watched it. We're going to talk about it next week. So go and watch The Endless. I haven't looked yet.
It's on Netflix.
So if you have Netflix, go watch it.
It's on Netflix. Or no, it's not. It's on Prime, but it's part of Prime Video, so you don't have to rent it. You can just watch it. It was on Netflix. But now it's on Prime.
I saw it on Netflix a while ago. It's on Amazon Prime for free if you have Amazon Prime. Otherwise, there are other places you could probably watch it too. I'll be posting it on Instagram
probably
as well. If we find free places, obviously, or subscription places, we'll let you know.
I might end up having more to say about The Endless, especially in terms of the cult. Okay. Because fucking cults, man.
Okay, I really look forward to next week's episode, so I don't want to spoil it. If you have more to say, we definitely won't spend 20 minutes talking about bullshit either.
we probably will, let's face it. Yeah, definitely find The Empty Man. Definitely watch it. It's so good. It's worth it. It's such a unique horror thriller drama. Right. It's very unique. If you've watched it and you've sat through the show, join the conversation. Tell us, message us. Tell us what you think some of the scenes mean. Do you think Amanda's full of shit, or do you think she was being honest?
Yeah, I'm really curious what people think about it. So drop us a line on Facebook and Instagram. You can call in and leave a voicemail, and we'll play it next time.
Call in, leave a voicemail. Before we completely sign off, total left turn.
I'm excited.
I got a comment about our Tusk post.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Okay, I got two of them. The first one was, I just watched this because of you guys.
Oh, no.
And I definitely, she said when it ended, she definitely had the, what the fudge am I watching?
That's accurate, yes.
And then I challenged her to give us to call in and give her best impression of the walrus whale.
The scream.
I haven't heard back, so I think I scared her away. So sorry. And then I got another comment from someone saying, I watched it, I hated that movie. And I'm like, it's accurate. Whether you love it or hated it. It's an accurate
good reasons
statement.
For both, yeah. You're in the right, whether you love it or hate it.
But you telling everyone, please call in. We'll listen to it. We'll probably have fun with what you got to say. But,
for sure.
So check out The Empty Man. It deserves huge audience, big following.
And if you liked it, tell other people you liked it, and so they can watch it. And then we can hopefully get a physical copy of it.
Because word of mouth is huge, especially these days. And then make sure you go watch The Endless, because, man,
that movie's great too.
I know we're both going to have a lot to say about that.
I've been so excited to talk about it for a long time. And it was another one that you'd seen for the first time this week. So go again cold, but a lot to say about that one. So check us out.
I have halfway through it, not even halfway through it, as soon as, there was a moment where I was shaking my head and just God damn it, Jake. God damn it, Jake. And then I was like, I'm going to be on fucking edge this whole movie. I know it. Yeah. And I was.
Yeah. It probably didn't help watching it after this, where you feel like something, you're going to get a terrible horror-y left turn. You get a left turn, but it's not really scary.
I was just fucking cool.
Yep. All right.
I'm good. Any final?
I think so.
Cool. Thank you.